Well, thanks. Maybe if you want, I can tell you a little bit about it. I'm not sure is that okay? Is that what you want?
Please, jump in.
Okay.
Well, if you want to, you can skip right to the end, but I don't think you want to.
Well, no, I think maybe what I'll do is I'll leave people hanging a little bit. I want them to be curious enough to hopefully want to get the book. But, one of the fundamental things that to me seemed important was if this symbol is not found in the runic record anywhere in Scandinavia, and because of the geology and the language work and everything else, this document is in fact genuine, then there has to be an explanation for it. I mean, they didn't just pick it out of the air. And there has to be a compelling reason for it, I felt. And what I chose to do at that time was I thought if I'm going to have any chance in figuring out what this symbol is, I need to delve in and try to understand how the people that I think carved this stone might have thought, and how their brains worked, and what their religious ideology might be, and what it was that might impact their thinking, and what they might do that would prompt them to use this symbol. And because everything that we found on the runestone pointed to the island of Gotland in the 14th century, and knowing that really the only people that were capable of carving an inscription of this length and complexity would have been a member of the clergy at that time, and then knowing that the only clergy that was present on Gotland at that time were the Cistercian monks, it made sense to really dig in and try to understand who these people were. So that's what I did. And at that point, boy, oh boy, things really got interesting. And then we started to try to understand what they believed, what some of their symbols were. One of the things that I found out is that the Cistercians were experts with codes and ciphers, and that they had very busy scriptoriums within their abbeys and monasteries, copying and recording manuscripts, and a lot of the knowledge that was known at that time. And so it turns out these guys were quite accomplished at different alphabets, certainly runes and language, and things started to come together. And the other thing in the hooked X that I did at the same time was come to realize that there are 4 more runic inscriptions found in North America that incorporate the hooked X symbol being used for A. And so the next step was to go out to Spirit Pond, which is along the Atlantic Ocean at the mouth of the Kennebec River, at a place called Pompano Beach, Maine, where in 1971 there were 3 more runic inscriptions found by a man named Wolter. And these are fantastic inscriptions, in some ways more interesting than the Kensington runestone. And one of those stones is something called the Spirit Pond Map Stone, which has a map and a runic inscription that essentially says Vinland, 1402, and these stones use the same medieval Easter table dating practice as the Kensington runestone, and we have a couple of dates. 1401 appears once, and 1402 appears 3 times. In addition to that, on the map it says Vinland takes 2 days, with an arrow pointing to the right, which is actually south on that map. And interestingly enough, many medieval maps were not oriented the way they are today, with north at the top. They had east at the top. So that arrow pointing to the right is actually south. And when you sail 2 days south, you end up in the Cape Cod-Narragansett Bay area. And funny, in Narragansett Bay, near the shore on a large boulder that is only seen today at extreme low tide, is another very short runic inscription with the hooked X. And so apparently this is where Vinland is, at least according to the person that carved that mapstone. And I guess the most interesting thing that I talk about in great detail in the book is a mysterious two-story round tower standing on a hilltop in Newport, Rhode Island. It's something known as the Newport Tower. Many people call it the Mystery Tower. And conventional wisdom of many people is it's a colonial-aged windmill. I don't think the evidence is there to support that opinion, and in fact, I believe this to be a late 14th century, early 15th century religious structure built by people associated with the Cistercian order. And in there we talk about some interesting architectural features, and to me what is by far the most important aspect of this structure is it was used as an observatory, but it was also a religious structure. It's a church. And that combination led to some new discoveries that I proposed and so far appear to be hanging together. And so I don't know how much you want me to talk about that, but maybe I'll just stop there for the moment.
As much as you'd like.
You found this unusual symbol. You noticed that it was different and unique and had not been identified. You started to hunt it down, and it presented itself on the Spirit Pond runestone, the Narragansett runestone, and a couple other places. Can you talk about those as well?
Well, sure. There's a couple of interesting places where it occurs over in Europe. And one of those places is in Sweden. In 2003, we took the Kensington runestone over to Stockholm, where it was displayed in the Historical Museum in Stockholm. And myself and Dick and some other researchers and linguists and archaeologists in Sweden attended a conference, and we presented our research. And that was a fantastic conference. But one of the things that happened shortly after we left is another researcher recognized some of the characters on the runestone that were very similar, and in fact the same as things he had seen in some documents in some archives in northern Sweden. It turns out they were found in some papers that were recorded in 1883 and 1885 by a man named Edward Larson.